Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Never has an intro to my video been more appropriate. Hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh, me again.
I wasn't being nearly this silly before we turned on the camera. How you doing?
Good.
Having a good day?
I can't not make this awkward. I just am awkward.
Okay.
Sorry.
I also, so here's the thing. Here's how our conversations normally go and our arguments. I can't stand the silence, and so I will always be the one talking, and then I will repeat myself because. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is my instinct and my gear is to always try to do all the talking and fill in the quiet, the lulls.
Yeah.
And I know I won't be able to fight that instinct.
Mm-hmm.
So please tell me to shut up if you ever want to say something while I'm speaking, and I will.
Okay, I
will. So I'll tell you, guys, later this evening in about an hour or so, we're going to be downtown protesting with the Clearwater crew. And it just felt right to do a chat with you guys first to, I'm so excited about this conversation that we're going to have, because I feel like the challenges that we've had in our relationship are like, well, we've never spoken about them. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, it's like, it's hard to know how common these challenges are in other relationships, mm-hmm. especially with kind of the unique type of, unique trauma and shared trauma we both bring mm-hmm. to our relationship. But because our relationship has been, it's been very challenging for both of us from the very beginning. And we've been committed to it and dedicated to figuring out how to make it work regardless.
Right.
And because of the unique and shared trauma we bring to this relationship, like it is both the best and worst relationship I could ever imagine having. Like the best, like honestly, the way we're capable of understanding each other when things are good is unparalleled.
Right.
And because of you have from your childhood, mm-hmm. like a pathological, and I use that word because it's almost like a disease and you can't control it, fear of abandonment.
Right.
And I have what I would call a pathological avoidant personality type. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Like you've sent me all sorts of characteristics of this avoidant personality type.
Right.
And it's funny because I don't consider myself to be someone who avoids anything, but that's because I have a blind spot on the ways in which I avoid things.
Right. Yeah. And in addition to the things that you're saying, we also both have big personalities too, believe it or not.
Well, which is funny because everyone thinks I just control and dominate you in every way, which, by the way, when you guys say that, that makes Jenna furious. And she takes it out on me.
Oh my God.
No, Jenna, don't hurt me.
No, but we both are like the truth is that I'm a little bit, maybe not a little bit, but I am a little bit of a psycho. It might not appear like it on camera.
This is not a paid endorsement. She was not paid to say that, folks.
It doesn't look like it on camera because I'm nervous. Also, I don't behave like a psycho on camera like Aaron does. But he's a little bit of a dick too.
I'm a little bit of an asshole, and Jenna's a little bit of a psycho.
Yeah, and so when we fight, it can be pretty extra.
So, aside from possibly how much other people might appreciate hearing the challenges that we've had, mm-hmm. I felt like the greater importance to having a chat is honestly to take the power away from what I consider to be destructive elements of our community, mm-hmm. who want to and have demonstrated every single day a desire to use our relationship challenges not only as weapons against each of us individually, but against our friends, against the greater community at large, against people who have supported us individually over all the time, our board members, our foundation. And you know, aside from the fact that I just think honestly people would really appreciate hearing the challenges that we faced and how it has affected our relationship and the highs and the lows. Right. That perhaps there's an element of, oh, okay, so they are committed to continuing to work through the problems and the struggles in their relationship. They're working it out. Maybe we should stay out of it. Right. Maybe it's okay for us to mind our business, which is ironic because now we're making it everyone's business. But honestly, everyone else is already making it everyone else's business. And the truth is, and I did make it everybody's business. So that's true. And I'm the one who hurt you. And I have apologized. And I do apologize. And Jenna has been one to tell me, you know, I think not, Jenna would say, I'm speaking as Jenna would say, I think that you should, not for my good, but for your own good, you know, do a public apology. And I've always said that's against like every fiber of my being, is like, if I hurt you, I want to apologize to you. And I almost felt like it would cheapen that to apologize to a bunch of people I did not hurt. Other than the fact that there are probably a lot of people who, you know, I guess I would say felt disappointed. Sorry, I'm not like trying to agree. I'm just like, no. Yeah. And so, I mean, honestly, it gets to a point where it feels like pandering to like issue a public apology for what's going on in a private relationship. But then when I would give it a little bit of additional thought, I just think of all these other high profile examples of people who get like caught behaving badly in a relationship, and they always issue public apologies. And there's never been a part of me that sees one of these public apologies and is like, ew, that's pandering. It always feels appropriate when you see someone else doing it, but it never felt appropriate to do it. But anyway, to any of you out there who felt let down or disappointed or any other words, I do apologize. I apologize for letting you guys down. And I've already apologized to Jenna profusely many times. Okay. So can we talk a little bit about this? Well, I want to say the fear of abandonment and the avoidant personality type. What are like, you're going to do a better job explaining this avoidant personality type than I am, because for me, it's weird. So we absolutely trigger each other in the worst possible ways at the worst possible times at the same time, like what for the same reasons. Yeah. Like what you emotionally need directly triggers what I emotionally need. Right. Yeah. And then it's like a negative feedback loop, right, that spirals downhill so fast and makes everything worse. Yeah. I mean, I think that like the best way to describe it is that essentially like how we both grew up and I feel like everybody has some version of this, but you know, I didn't live in a house with my parents. Like you didn't have a father who was present. Your mom, and this isn't like blaming or whatever, making victim. It's just the reality of the situation. And it's like my biggest thing that I struggle with in life and my past relationship, like my whole life, is this fear of abandonment. And even knowing about it doesn't make it go away. I even know about it in the moment. And what's interesting is that like I actually didn't know how much it was being triggered because did I say fear of abandonment? Okay. I didn't know how much it was being triggered because I guess I had this blind spot and I don't even know when it's happening. And I don't realize that I like sort of like
like almost every interaction that I have on some level is like a test to see if I will get abandoned, or I take all of the words that are said and I'm like, but are they just saying it because of this? Or like, I'm always I'm always making less of the love I receive because I like can't accept it, or I'm afraid to accept it because I'm afraid that it will go away. Like, and I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be excited about something or almost like have it go well only for it to be ripped away. And so it's like I'm trying to like control it on some level, or I'm always trying to reassure myself or like do these little tests or like push things to a certain line without realizing it. Like, to me, like I will question things, but I don't know that's why I'm questioning them. I just know that I need the answer to this question right now. And so I don't know even that it's going on. And a lot of it is because it only gets triggered in a relationship. Like in a relationship with a friend, it's like your friend can come and go whenever, and it's not an issue. But some things literally only come up in a relationship with somebody who you really love.
That's right, because this does not happen with your friendships at all.
No, not at all.
And the truth is, I'm only the second relationship you've ever had.
Right.
And we're both coming out of 20 plus year marriages. And in our marriages, like in your marriage, you were me.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Like early on in our relationship, you were like
the extra one.
It's so weird for me because in this relationship, you say
I'm Dallas.
I'm you and you're Dallas.
Yes.
And it's like
I don't like
so you're
that,
like
yeah.
you're like
Not
I
easy.
like you're like you were the strong crazy one in your
Yeah.
relationship with Dallas.
Yeah.
And now
Now I'm crazy again, but
okay, but so early on in our relationship, this thing that you just described reared its head because I'd never experienced it before.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't know, like, it was also in my marriage, but I was like, but it's his fault. I was like, but this is Dallas's fault in my mind.
But also he would just kind of take it, right? Like he didn't really.
Right. Like, I don't mean that it actually was his fault. I was just like, well, yes, I'm the more evolved person out of the two of us. I've gone to therapy, which is honestly just like bullshit. Like, therapy's important, but someone can start here and go to therapy and they get here, and another person can start here. It's like, just because you've gone to therapy doesn't mean that you're more emotionally evolved.
I think we've all seen the evidence of that. No, I'm not talking about you.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was like, and also I'm a woman. So like, obviously, like you guys know what I mean.
No, I didn't know where you were going with that. I was gonna
Men are animals, joke. Basically. Women are more emotionally evolved.
I got it. I got
really
it.
mean that, but like, so I was like, this is a Dallas problem. I was like, obviously, I'm more evolved and self-aware,
right?
And I think but I wasn't. I didn't realize that the same thing would happen in another relationship.
But also, Dallas doesn't like if you don't mind my saying, and stop even like very early on in our relationship, I said, I don't understand why you want to fight all the time. I said, I don't like, I said, I can't take the fighting.
Yeah.
And you were like, we're only fighting because I can't come to you to talk about anything important.
Right.
And I go, everything important is always some complaint about me.
Right.
And you're like, but you take it as a complaint, but it's not a complaint. I go, it's a fucking complaint.
Right.
You're lying. Like this is all we would ever fight about is essentially nothing.
Right.
But to you, it's funny because I'd be like, you're starting the fight. And you're like, no, you're starting the fight by not being willing to talk to me about this thing. And I'm like, literally, we've been having the same fight for 15 or 16 months.
Right. Yeah, it is. It does come down to that. It's like me having like a feeling from something you said or something that happened where I'm like, that makes me uncomfortable. That makes me feel like abandoned-y, like that. And then I will be like, bring it up and you feel like it is an accusation, and on some level it kind of is, but I'm trying not to accuse you, even though I'm like, it's his fault. No, not really. I'm trying to like be self-aware enough to be like, I feel this way and it might not be because of you, but then you're like, oh, she's trying to explain it like that because she really does think it's because of me. And
Right.
it feels like just like a
Feels
criticism.
like a trap.
Right. And it feels like a criticism. And on some level, it is a test.
Yeah.
But I don't know it. I just know that I need this thing. And it's like, I want reassurance, but I need a lot of it. And so it becomes this like, you feel accused. And then I'm like, oh, I can't come to you. And
I'm like, I wish you would. I'm like, I wish you would come to me about anything that's not a complaint about me.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, I can never come to you about anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can come to me about anything except,
right.
I'm like, complain about me to someone else. Like, if you're going to come to me and complain to me about me and then expect me to be like, oh, I'm so compassionate about all the constant. But can I give an example?
Okay. But
the reason I like the examples is because I want other people to be like,
mm-hmm.
when I see videos where people talk about their relationships,
mm-hmm.
it's the comments that are the funniest.
Mm-hmm.
So like one of the things I've always said to you
mm-hmm.
is like, let's say we're having a conversation and I say something that is unintentionally hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said, if you would tell me just right then, hey, that really hurt my feelings,
mm-hmm.
I would like instantly welcome the opportunity to reassure you and be like, oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, and I love you, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
But what happens is, correct me if I get the sequence wrong.
Yeah.
You get a little hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You try to let it go.
Right.
I'm like, try to let it go. You're like, he didn't mean it that way. I'm going to reframe it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And like 2 or 3 days later,
well, then
when you've already tried to self-soothe.
Yeah. Right. And then you've done like that, like a few times.
Okay.
And to be honest, it is how I take things sometimes, or it was, you were a little bit like irritated or something. And it's different because like Dallas was never irritated. Well, he's irritating, but in a good way. He would never get, it was the other way around. I would be like irritated with him.
All the time.
Yeah. So I've never felt the other side of it.
So for me and Heather, that's how it was. And it's how the reason at the end I started to be like, have my kids ever seen me not irritated?
Right.
Is I was just always irritated about the littlest things all the time. And I was like, my kids are going to think this is who I am.
Right. Right.
And so that's why like in the relation. Yeah. So we both.
And the things I say to you are things that Dallas said to me. Like he would be like, oh, well, you just seem like when you're irritated, you like, it's like, you just, the love stops.
Mm.
And like, I was always like, well, that's weird. Like, I was like, I'm just irritated. Like you can take it. And when you act that way, I'm like, oh, I'm like, and then I say the same words that he said to me.
Right. And
so it's just interesting. Like you get different parts of yourself.
Right.
Come out in different relationships. Anyways, I don't really know why we started talking about.
Well, so in this instance, what would happen many times is you bring up something, hey, when you did this at this earlier time, that made me feel bad.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I would go,
you've been pissed this whole time. I'd be like, you didn't tell me.
I'd be like, it made you feel bad then, or you feel bad about it now?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, it made me feel bad back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. What was happening here? What was going on through my mind?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, but I'm still upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd be like, what do you want me to do about that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd get it. And then, but like, see, you're needing something from me at that moment.
Right.
But I can't tell what it is. And then I'm like, and then I go, so you just want to fight about it? Like, I thought we were having a great time. Like you just ruined, I'm like, we were just having a great time and you just ruined it because you wanted to bring up something that happened 3 days ago. And then I start getting increasingly, I'm like, so you just want to fight.
Right.
And you're like, I can't bring up anything to you. And I'm like, no, you can bring up a lot of things to me. This seems like you just want to fight. And then you start feeling immediately abandoned.
Yes.
Immediately abandoned.
Yeah.
And then it spirals. We spiral very quickly.
Yeah. Like, I guess what happened is that whatever happened earlier is like it's like almost like I keep building up a case in my mind for abandonment.
Mm.
And the first one, I'm like, I can let that go. But then I'm like saving it. And then another thing happens. And then it gets to a point where it's like, and these are small things. Like it's little things.
Like I sounded irritated on the phone, or I sounded like I wanted to get off the phone, or
yeah, exactly.
Or I had to go and get off the phone.
Okay, now we're just making me sound like a psycho. And so, like,
I wanted to go to sleep.
Honestly,
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll
sleep
stop
is
teasing you.
bullshit. No, I'm just joking. But like, basically, like, and then there's this like feeling inside me that's kind of frantic, and so when I start feeling frantic, like I'm already not in a good place when I'm bringing it up.
Mm.
And then when he reacts like that to what feels like an accusation, I don't realize that I'm already like at like maybe like an 8 or maybe a 7. And then when he's like, well, why are you bringing this up now? And then I'm like, oh, now you're making it worse. Like now if you're that irritated with me because he feels like I'm sabotaging when something good is happening. And to be honest, on some level, when something good is happening, it's very fucking suspicious, you guys. Like if something is good in a relationship for an extended period of time, it's like shit's about to get fucked up. The world is tricking you. Like I genuinely believe this. And I know it's not right, but I'm like, I there's like a subconscious part of me that's like, we're going to take this down a notch because that's the bad thing that's going to happen that I can control, rather than whatever scary bad thing the universe comes up with in order to like destroy me and ruin everything. I'm almost like, okay, well, maybe if there's this little conflict, then it won't be as bad. It won't be as hardcore when it gets ruined. And so I will bring it up, and then he'll be like kind of a dick, and then it will be like, oh, it's confirmed. I was like, this is like an abandonment. Like it's like, I guess I need something from him, which is like love and reassurance. Cause I'm just like, please just tell me it's okay. Just please tell me this. And
that's my magical trigger right there.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So I wonder if this is uniquely weird to me or if other people can relate. So someone asking me, tell me everything is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Nothing could possibly trigger me more than that. And also I feel like I'm trying to not personalize this to you, but obviously we're the ones in a relationship, is like, even if you come to me, this happened many times, even if you come to me and say, look, all I need you to say to me is X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. What gets triggered in me is I feel like you're asking me to manipulate you. Mm-hmm. And even knowing that all I have to do is say these magic words feels like manipulation, and I'm not going to do it. Right. Whether I feel like you're manipulating me or whether I feel like you're asking me to manipulate you, I say, I do not care if me saying those words will fix all of this. I'm not going to do it, because also I feel that it's inherently a lie. I go, I can't promise you everything will be okay. I go, everything might not be okay. And I'm okay with things not being okay. I can handle a lot in life. I'm okay with things not being okay. I'm not going to promise you, because also it's not within my power to say that everything will be okay. I feel like you're in those instances, what gets triggered in me is I feel like you're almost asking me to tell you there's nothing that could happen in this relationship that would make it not okay. And I'm like, oh no, there's plenty that could happen in this relationship that would make it not okay. And I feel like the fact that, well, you've heard me say this a million times, is like, I want to wake up every day knowing we're both going to work as hard to make the relationship as enjoyable and happy as possible. I don't want to have an agreement that we're both just going to agree to suffer as much as possible. We're going like, so it's almost like I end up saying that we approach the relationship from completely different mindsets. And I don't know if you actually agree with that or not.
Well, so this part right here that you're saying, that we're talking about right here, about me saying, I want you to say this.
Yeah.
And you being triggered by that. I actually think the part of me that wants you to say that is actually because I like regress into being like a little kid at that moment.
Mhm.
And like it's almost like you just want, so it's like I'm almost not logically having you be like, tell me everything's going to be okay with this relationship. I am almost like just like hold me and like be like everything's going to be okay. It doesn't fucking matter if it's the truth or not. Just like, but that I get it. That's what you revolt against, but it's like that's what I need. And also, but also I have to be to a point like where I need to self-soothe too. But also
But for you, you find that, am I right? Almost impossible.
yeah, I do. And not in all times when I am feeling emotional, but to be honest, like in a relationship, in an intimate relationship, when this happens, to be honest, I honestly feel it is impossible to self-soothe. And my understanding is that it's almost like when this fear is triggered, it's almost like you're triggered back to the age where that occurred. And so it's almost like I'm a little, God, I sound like crazy, but it's like almost like I'm a baby.
Well, I mean, do you mind if I mention the podcast you're doing?
Yeah, no, that's okay.
So if you guys aren't familiar with Tim Fletcher, he's an expert in complex PTSD, which always has its base in childhood.
Mhm.
And Jen is doing a series of podcasts with Tim about this exact subject and her life and her experience. And
Mhm.
I've had the privilege of listening to, they haven't been made public yet.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's incredible stuff. And so some of the things that you're
Amazing,
talking
yeah.
about right now is stuff that's come up in your conversations because
Right.
he's an expert in this stuff.
Right. Yes. And so it's like on some level when you're a little kid and you can't be your genuine self, otherwise you'll get in trouble from Scientology. It's like you sort of figure out these other ways of acting, of getting around your needs in order to survive. And you stop sort of developing at that point. Like you stop growing emotionally. And so it's almost like because I've been shoving down my emotions for all these years without like trying to be a good girl post Scientology, trying to be like perfect. It's like at some point you have to face it and you have to now go back to that place where you stop developing and sort of like reparent yourself and figure out what's going on and figure out, but sometimes if you're at an age where your parents would have soothed you, you might, because how it works is that when you're a baby, your parents actually soothe you. They soothe you. And then you slowly, because you don't know how to soothe yourself. So they pick you up and they hold you and they tell you everything's going to be okay. And you can't do that to yourself, but you learn tools as you grow up, as you become like you grow from being a toddler to a teenager, you learn to do that to yourself. But if you haven't learned that, then you have to go back and learn it. You have to build your tool chest. And
You never had that as a child.
right.
But I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Yes. But I also think that there could be another thing happening here. So I'm going to because some people take abandonment and they feel anxious all the time, or not all the time, but when they're triggered, they're like, I want my parent, I want this. And other people as kids, they go, I'm the only one I can rely on.
Mhm.
So I have to figure this out myself, and don't ever get stuck trusting somebody to help you. So it's all on me. And I feel like that's a little bit more where the avoidant personality
For sure.
comes in. And it's like attachments are like, this is like, I got to look out for myself, and it's like this fear that somebody else is going to sort of drag you down.
Well, this has reared its head in our relationship so many times
Mhm.
because, as I've told you a lot of times, I don't like talking about my problems. I like thinking about them.
Right.
And talking about them actually makes me feel worse.
Mhm.
Thinking about them makes me feel better.
Mhm.
And there have been times when, let's say, I'll tell you 3 days later, yeah, I've been fucking just being destroyed by this. And I've just, blah, blah, blah. And you're really fucking hurt
Mhm.
that I was going through that by myself and I didn't tell you.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, why would I tell you? Like
Mhm.
I was dealing with it.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
but you want to talk about your problems to the point where you'll call me and you'll say, well, I'm upset about this. And I get a little defensive and pissed off because I'm like, I feel like you're bringing it up because it means you're accusing me of being the reason why you're upset about this thing.
Right.
And you're like, no, I'm bringing it up. I don't know why I'm upset about it. And I'm like, then why do you expect me to be able to help you figure out why you're upset about something? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, no. And anyway, I feel like that was actually a bad example.
No, but it's
you
true.
like
It's a
talking
good
through your
point.
problems.
I do. Yeah. I'm a verbal processor.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah. And honestly, I really like talking about them to the point where I annoy the crap out of everybody.
Here's why I felt like it was a bad example. I didn't make it clear that it was you being upset about something like I said or did something. You're upset about it. You're bringing it up, but you don't actually know why you're upset about it. And I'm thinking, figure out why you're upset about it before you call me about it. And you're like, no, I want to work through it with you. And I'm like, this feels like abuse. I'm like, this literally feels like the worst type of abuse I can imagine. I'm like, so you're pissed off at something I said or did. You want to tell me about it. And then you want to task me with helping you figure out. And I'm like, is this a trick? I feel like I'm being manipulated here. I feel like I'm being emotionally and mentally abused, ma'am. And then you get pissed. Like this is an example of something that could have just been a normal, relatively light matter, but I get instantly triggered, and then your sense of abandonment gets triggered. Right. And then I feel trapped. Right. And then I want to, like, even if we finish an argument, right? Yeah. Everyone always has lingering upset when you finish an argument. Even when it's all sorted out and the apologies and the I love yous and everything. And I'm like totally okay with ending the phone call right there and dealing with the rest of my upset on my own because I know it's not your fault. But you struggle with that. Yeah, I do. You want to be like, no, I'm still upset. Yeah. And then I lose it. I'm like, we just literally had a 3-hour argument. We just resolved it. We just resolved what we agree, where it went wrong, how we could do it differently. And at the point where I think we're getting off the phone, you're like, I'm still upset. And what you mean when you say that and what's motivating you to say something like that is completely different than what I hear and how I respond. And then we go on for another 3 hours. Right. Totally. And I feel like I see like talking about stuff that happened or that I'm feeling whatever about as like a way for us to get closer. And he sees it as like the poison. And then when he acts like in a certain way, when I'm like, oh, I want us to be closer, then I'm like, oh, he is a narcissistic abuser. Yeah, I'm like, you know what would make us closer? Enjoying more quality time together and not spending half of our time fighting over nonsense. Right. But that sounds like of course, by saying that, it sounds like I'm blaming you for the fighting, which of course I do in our arguments. I do say, why do you call? I'm like, right. This goes down other rabbit holes that I don't even know that we have time or we can do more chats about all this. Yeah. But it's like, there's a certain aspect of our relationship. Let's touch on this briefly. I have said to you many times, I said, Jenna, in our relationship, have I ever come to you complaining that something you've done or said has made me feel a particular way and I want you to make it better? And you're like, no, that's what's wrong with you. Right. And I go, no, that's me prioritizing, 1, quality time, and 2, going, I'm in a relationship, or meaning I'm sitting over here going, as a part of this relationship, I've decided, or how I operate is, I'm going to proactively accept the things about you or the things that you do or say or anything that annoy me, because that's the cost of being in a relationship, is I'm accepting you for who you are and what you are. And that I would never be like, you need to stop doing this. You need to stop saying this. You need to this. You need to that. And I feel like I'm being virtuous by doing that. And you're like, no, you're being avoidant. Yeah. And this is where it's interesting because I do feel like I'm avoidant about things, but I also am not. And sometimes I think it might be good. I don't know. I feel like I still think that, well, it is good. I still think that it's a solution that I wouldn't, to something that you had to solve. So and it is good. It's a coping mechanism because it worked at some point and it works in some cases. Well, and also, but I feel like in a relationship though, let's be honest, you are constantly saying, I don't meet your emotional needs because I can't give you what you want when you want it. And one of the things that triggers you is I'll honestly be like, if I can't meet your emotional needs, then at some point you either need to accept it or not be in the relationship. But then that sounds like I'm being like, suck it up. If you've got a problem, suck it up or leave. And that triggers a sense of abandonment.
Yeah, right.
But hold on,
And
but
also, I think
let me take
that-
half a step back because
yeah,
I don't want to
yeah,
accidentally have say something hurtful.
Oh.
There is a sort of a push and pull in our relationship of you feeling like that it should bring us closer. Like the things that I do or say that bother you or trigger you, that somehow by bringing those up and talking about them, it brings us closer. And I feel like it's wasting a lot of time fighting. And I'll go, do I do that to you? Do I do that to you?
Right.
And you're like, no, that's
Yeah.
because you're a piece of shit who doesn't like to communicate.
Yeah. Or you're avoiding.
And so I'm almost bringing this up, not because we're going to like solve something about it
Right, yeah.
here, but because it's an interesting dynamic that here's what's interesting. The problems we have in our relationship have been the exact same problems repeating over and over and over. None of it's new.
Right.
None of it's new, except for a few flare-ups that
Right.
are deservedly, outliers in our bad behavior.
Yeah.
But that's at one point. A few weeks ago, honestly, we said let's just get some couples counseling. And after talking to a lot of other people who've had hit and miss experiences doing couples counseling, the truth is it's really hard to find a good therapist for that. And we simply haven't succeeded in finding one yet.
Yeah.
But we have acknowledged that, the problems that we've had, they're the same problems. They're over and over and over. They don't just resolve by trying to communicate about it. Even if on an isolated circumstance, we do feel like we resolved it, it's no less likely to reoccur in the future.
Right.
And I thought you said something earlier that was really interesting. I think you were referring to your fear of abandonment. Being aware of it does not fix anything.
Right. Yes.
And
I guess it is the first step, but it's in the moment. It's not like how in Scientology you think that like if you're aware of something, then the charge will blow and you'll have new awareness. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not what happens. I'm like, I feel a fear of abandonment. I'm like, because it is.
And it's actually been it's the one thing I've complained about the most in the relationship is when, because we'll have like multi-hour long arguments that eventually result in us having some really insightful, vulnerable conversations. And at the end of those, I always feel, oh, this isn't going to happen again. And to be honest, one of my biggest triggers is simply the moment I see it starting to happen again, I will be like, there's no fucking way this is about to happen again. I can see it as clear as day. And then you can see me start to fucking tense up and get a little defensive.
Yeah.
And then you start to get a little, this motherfucker's about to abandon me, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh shit, she's about to go fucking nuclear. And you're like, I can tell, mother. I mean, the truth is our conversations don't just end up as screaming fights, really. But I'm talking about the escalation.
Right. It's happening at the same time for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Like literally the cause of his is the cause of mine.
Yes.
But then sometimes when you're like also like, in a relationship, I want quality time. And then I'm like, well, but if you run into issues, you avoid stuff. And then you wind up building up resentments and then it all fucking comes out later. And so
I'm not building up resentments. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. And so it is a little bit of like, it's both things. Your avoidance and my fear of abandonment are like, both things are happening. And we're both like haven't exactly had the most successful relationships in the past.
But the irony is that I consider our 20-year marriages to be successful relationships. And I've seen people in the comments being like, are you out of your mind? I'm like, I'm sorry. Being in a 50-year unhappy marriage is not better than being in a, like, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I'm still married. We're not divorced yet. I'm happy me and Heather are very good friends.
Right. Yeah.
You and Heather are very good friends.
Yeah.
You and Dallas are very good friends.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, let's talk about that.
What?
People always comment how uncomfortable you are in videos with me, but you and Dallas are just so great. You should get married again. Can you explain to the people what you think the reason for that is? Because I don't know who that bothers more, me or you.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, Jenna, we're not going to do videos together if you look like you don't want to be in the goddamn video.
I think that it's like, I mean, I lived with Dallas for like literally since I was a baby. Not a baby, but since I was 18. We've lived together and slept in the same bed for 22 years. I mean, I was the boss of that man for that entire time. I'm just joking, but like I've been with Aaron for a little over a year. And so me and Dallas, like, it just is how it is. But honestly, like at the end, we were just like more friends. So it's like Dallas is very easygoing. Oh God, I'm making it.
Well, no,
worse,
and
but
also in videos, you like making fun of Dallas. Like you think it's hilarious.
because he like it just rolls off his back.
He doesn't care.
Like,
He's used to this.
Yes.
He does not care.
Yes, he doesn't care at all. He like never gets offended at all. And Dallas looks like the hostage in my videos. And then also,
but like honestly, people think like that I've made you do videos. I make you do the videos with me. Like I literally tell you, Jenna, I'll do videos with you 7 days a week if you want me to, but I am not going to ask you to do them because people already people already think I'm just using you because
my
your name's Jenna
personality
Miscavige.
makes me seem unhappy to be in videos, but I'm just terribly awkward.
Yeah.
And I can't change, or maybe I will eventually. I can't. I'm too tired of trying not to be awkward that I just like am. And I asked Aaron I asked him, can I please be in videos with you? Because I'm too shy to do videos by myself. And I want to do them with somebody who I'm comfortable with. It's less awkward for me to do them with someone than by myself. And so I was asking him to be in his videos all the time because it was something that I wanted to achieve in order to be comfortable doing videos. I want to be on YouTube. I want to be able to talk. And it was just so I was asking him, and then I was kind of offended that he would never ask me.
But I would tell you in advance, and I would think it would be good enough. I'm like, look, I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
I will do videos with you 7 days a week if you want.
Right.
Knowing that, I am never going to ask you.
Right. And I was like, I need you to ask me. I need to feel wanted. I don't need to beg for everything. You can
and
ask me.
I'm like, Jenna. I'm like, you end up looking uncomfortable in the videos and people think I'm making you do them. Like, I'm looking bad. Like, I'm like, if you want, like, I'm like.
I mean, he does force me to go through this uncomfortable audio checking routine that he's obsessed with and say testing, whatever, like 1 second before, or make me download new software to start for new mic shit that I honestly couldn't care less about, as you might have noticed, because the audio in my videos is so bad. But I could, and so yeah. But also, to be honest, it's uncomfortable to sit like this with somebody who you normally have your arm around, or who you're normally like.
See, for me, it's not uncomfortable for some reason. That's okay. Yeah,
that's right. That's because I love him more, and he's gonna abandon me.
Yes. So that is the other funny thing that, this is how you know Instagram is listening to everything you say through your phone, guys, because all I get on Instagram all day is memes of relationship difficulties, of like the girlfriend always saying, everything makes them think you don't love them at all. And it's funny, like you have that and I don't have that. And it's funny because depending on how you look at it, it looks like it's because I care less. And it's because I assume everything's good.
Yeah.
It's not that I care less. I mean,
only an idiot would assume everything was good. Must be nice.
Must be nice.
Seriously.
Must be nice with your no fear of abandonment. And it's true. You've asked me, do you think you have any fear of abandonment at all? And I said, no, I am naturally happy by myself. That doesn't mean out of a relationship. I mean, like, right. I feel like the way I think about myself and my ability to handle anything in life is that by myself and with enough time thinking about it, I can figure out and do anything. Right. I can figure out, I could be in the worst possible situation. And if I just think about it long enough, I'll figure out, okay, what's the one thing I could do to make this better? What's the key part of this I need to take responsibility for that I'm lying to myself about? Like, I feel like I am very, very secure as an individual.
Right. But I see it as hyper independence. Like I have hyper vigilance and you have hyper independence.
But that's a good thing, right?
What, hyper independence?
Sure.
I mean, it is good in many circumstances. Just like my hyper vigilance will make me be able to like predict what's going to happen and act accordingly. But your hyper independence,
Okay.
I think, but
It's true.
Well, you don't have to admit it now. We know you don't really think so. We'll get there eventually, though. Nobody's buying that you have just realized this. But it is its own thing.
Yeah.
That's why people who are avoidant are attracted to people who are a little bit the opposites. Because you secretly, I'm just telling you this, you secretly want the connection that only a psycho like me will force you to have.
Oh. I mean, the truth is, I mean, it's one of those I just wanted to at least start having a conversation about this stuff. And it's weird because it's not like, I've said although we never hid the fact that we were in a relationship, we also never openly discussed it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like we ever took measures to conceal it, but we just never openly discussed it.
Right.
And on my end, that was intentional. It feels so, I could probably think of 5 different words right here. Intentionally living out your relationship in the public sphere seems insane on many levels.
Right.
But then you have the other thing of like, we've said, how cool would it be for us to literally be able to do videos together every single day? That would be like a great thing.
Right.
And you're like, well, until it's not, it's like you have a public relationship, then you have to have a public breakup. And I've always said like, but it's weird because it's not like, I never once said the reason I wasn't going to ask you to do videos together is because I had any attention on whether people knew we were in a relationship. It was really because I didn't want you to feel like I was constantly using you for my channel. And I said, if you want to do videos with me 7 days a week, we'll do it. But
right. Well, just while you're saying that, another thing that happens is that people do say things like that. And it's like people say stuff all the time. And like, and it's hard. Like I guess we've been asked over the last year, like, how do you guys deal with all of the public attacks? And how do you deal with all these things that people are saying? And the truth is that it is hard. Being in a long distance relationship is hard as it is. But then always hearing these things about yourself or about your significant other, it's like, logically that they're not true most of the time. But like when you're feeling terrible or feeling abandoned, it's like, gosh, maybe this is true. Those things like get to me maybe more than they do to you. Yeah. Why did I start talking about that?
I think because you were saying people do say these. I said I don't want you to think I'm just using you for my channel. And you're like, yeah, people say that.
People say that all the time. So that's getting to him that people are saying that when it's not true. And so then he's acting like withdrawn towards me when I say, I want you to ask me to do videos.
And I'm like, let's just do the videos on your channel. And you're like, no, I'm not comfortable with that.
Right.
And I'm like, well, then you're going to have to ask me because I've already told you I'll do it anytime.
Right. And I'm saying I need you to ask me because that's what I need.
Right.
And so these little things that people say get to you. And it's like you're trying for them not to. And you think that you're succeeding at it. But they do get to you over time.
Yeah.
And it's like it has made the relationship more difficult.
Yeah.
And
and honestly, that's one of, I probably already said it earlier, is like continuing to feel it's my part of my avoidance tendency that it's nobody's business. I'm just here to do Scientology videos.
Right.
Everyone who thinks otherwise can just F off. Is honestly just continuing to empower other people who claim to know more about what's happening in our relationship than you, than me, than anyone else. And I guess maybe this is an appropriate time to touch on this because it sort of relates to what you just said. You are constantly being characterized by certain people. We won't even name them for right now, but you guys all know who they are. That like, you're not even capable of knowing how you feel or of even being able to talk about this relationship because you are just a victim of my narcissistic abusive control. And it's like, these are people who claim to, first of all, care about you. But then when you try to speak for yourself, behind the scenes. Because
Right.
yes, a bunch of stuff went public, understood. But some of those people who've continued to weaponize that, you've spoken to them behind the scenes and been like, look, here's what's really been going on. Here's what's really been
Right.
happening in our relationship.
And try to take responsibility for what I said just because.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've tried to handle that privately behind the scenes. And those people have pretended to care about you. And yet publicly still go, you just don't know. You're just not aware that you're actually in a narcissistic, abusive, controlling relationship. And eventually you'll open your eyes and you'll understand the nature of yourself in this relationship just as much as those people do who don't know a damn thing about either one of us.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And to add to that, it's like over the last year, it's like the amount of comments that I get, they're like, he's just going to throw you out like trash, by people on Reddit are like contributing to something small happening in the relationship, and me being like, I feel worried about this, and then having it be met in the way that it is, and then it becomes a spiral. And then it's easy to, especially when things are very hard, it's easy to be like abuser, narcissist, toxic, canceled. And when the truth of the matter is that, well, it's tempting, and it like takes some of the pressure off yourself. It makes you feel like, okay, there's not something wrong with me, when the truth is that all relationships have some level of this, and it's your choice how much you're going to take, if it's worth it, if and I guess putting labels on people make it easier. I myself am guilty of this, is like, it makes it like it's easier to have black and white thinking, because it makes it so it just calms down your mind. And it's like to put it on somebody else rather than looking at your experience, looking at their experience, and looking at what causes this. It's easier to do something like that. And in some cases it is necessary. So that's this, none of this minimizes, like, if it is necessary for people, if you are in a relationship where you get triggered so much that you can't not hurt the person, and it's not even just because of them, it's because of you, or it's like, yes, it will be, it does make sense to step away, but it is your choice to see the parts in you that are causing that. And it's, you decide if that's worth it to you in your relationship. And so it's all on a spectrum. All relationships are hard. That's what I believe. And it's almost like you can either become the best version of yourself through it and work through these things that are going to come up in any relationship, or you can decide that it's too much. But I guess I would rather figure it out than decide that everything that goes wrong is the other person's fault because I'm perfect, when that's not the case. I mean, many of the things that come up now came up in my last relationship.
Yeah. I've always said the only reason Heather and my marriage lasted for as long as it did, I know we're still married, but honestly, we've been separated since 2019 for all intents and purposes. The only reason that marriage was able to last as long as it did is because she's not explosive. She's, I won't call her avoidant, but she's willing to accept my avoidance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you and I are just very similar.
Yeah, right.
And,
exactly.
you know, I know there's a lot of people who, you know, especially having seen some of the stuff that's exploded publicly, would say, if you guys trigger each other that much, you know, it's not healthy, it's toxic, you guys shouldn't be together. And the truth is, I guess that's up for us to decide.
Right.
The only problem is, like, where it gets bad is when it affects our friends, and it hurts our friends, and it hurts our community. And because the truth is, any relationship, people are, it's only up to the people in the relationship, what they're willing to put up with, how hard they're willing to work, and whether they're going to continue to make it better. Right. And that's where we're at. Like, we're working hard to make this better. And
yeah, and our friends have like been amazing. Like, some of the people that have been told that they're not supportive of, like, nobody in this world and universe has been more supportive and helpful to me behind the scenes as Natalie. And
then she just gets dragged for not, like, publicly taking a stand against Aaron. It's like, our friends, honestly, know everything that's been happening in our relationship behind the scenes from the beginning.
I mean, Natalie has spent hours and hours on the phone with me, and like the hardest moment. So it's like, nobody has been more supportive and loving towards me than her. And, you know, even like other people who have been called out have just been like completely sweet angels, like Feral Cheryl. I didn't realize until you did a video with her the other day that she has a different last name than.
Oh,
It's like
that Farrell's not her first name and Cheryl's not her last name.
Well, I knew Cheryl.
Fullerton.
Or like, yeah, even people like Marilyn have been extremely supportive of both of us. So I guess that was a big part of it, is like people are being told to choose sides. And also I take responsibility for my part in it. Like, cause I feel like.
I didn't mean to say yeah there. I actually meant to say, you know, even someone like Mike Brown, who, you know, he doesn't want to get involved in any of this bullshit.
Right.
And, you know, he resigned from the board.
Right.
But even Mike has been, as a friend, supportive to both of us.
Right. Exactly.
And to be honest, if it wasn't for all of the targeted, directed, vitriolic hate at all of the board members, it's like, I cannot overstate how I feel about the destructive elements of this community who have publicly announced their desire to destroy. And if anything, I think there's many good things about having this conversation, but taking the power away from people who are continuing to use our problems against us and against our friends and against the community. Where's your power now? We just took it away from you. So
right. Yeah. And to sort of also like, I guess I did want to do this because I feel like it's hopefully like a good, not like we should be an example to anybody, but like also that like sorting things out with love and compassion is like the better thing to do. Like, it's like, rather than just like labeling and hating, which I also have been guilty of in this, also for somewhat understandable reasons, but still like, I want to be somebody who is kind and puts more love into the world and isn't just like perpetuating an endless war or fight. And so if I do that, I want to, even if I like do things that I regret, and I also put people feeling like they have to choose, I don't want my having done that to make me feel like I have to stay doing that same thing. Like, because I've already invested in it. It's like, I actually also need to have the strength to say when I have done something that isn't right or isn't productive for the future, that isn't going to serve me in my life, and to go back to being somebody who I'm proud of. Even if it's like, oh, well, I come across as a liar. It's like, I have to risk that in order to do what I feel like is right and be the person that I want to be going forward. Okay, but you have to talk because I
well, I'll tell you what. I know we got a bunch of starred comments here. We don't have time to go through all of them. Let's scoot up a little bit. We can see the screen because I know we're also, all of our protester friends are waiting for us. And I haven't ordered the pizzas yet, but let's just do this real quick, okay? Nora's going to freak out, says Eric. Melody, hey, you two beautiful people. Totally Jersey. Just want the best for you both. You owe us nothing. Hope you're doing this for yourselves. Northern Girl, the level of maturity this takes for both of them is highly commendable. Katie C, just want to say this. This is beautiful and healthy. Best wishes for the both of you. Julia O'Connell, what happens in your personal life is not my business. I love you both. Donna B, it's your business. You're both public figures that need a little bit of a grace and respect from all of us. Support you both. It's a great day not to be in a cult.
Just randomly, I feel like your channel also is different than mine. So I'm more inclined to talk about my personal life.
Yeah.
Without trying to be overly specific, and you're kind of like against it, pretty much because you're avoidant. And so it's like also different a different urge
Yeah.
there. That kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Michelle Norris, you're so emotional. Aaron, sad you had to go through this. You have a big heart. Big hearts bruise more easily, but are ultimately stronger. Julia A, it's none of our business. That said, it's possible to support both of you. Human beings are human. Go figure. Love to you both, no matter what happens next. Church of Satiretology, good to see you. Glad you're both taking back the narrative from the trolls. You both don't owe this community an explanation. However, we're glad to see you work through this and hopefully find peace and happiness. Farrell Cheryl, we'll see you downtown shortly. They are both brave. Being vulnerable is being brave, and it's healing.
Thank you. I love you, Cheryl.
Sandy McHugh, so happy to see you guys sitting, relaxed, smiling, and chatting. I bet some heads are exploding right about now. That was pretty much what I said was my exact intention, to take everyone who was dedicated to using us against each other and our friends and to have their heads literally explode. Julia O'Connell, thank you very much for your super chat. Braves Ho? Brave Shoe? Brave Shoe. Braves Ho is his sister. This makes my day. Incredible to see you communicating and caring for each other. Alicia, degraded daughter. Love with no conditions. Conditioning is foreign for many of us. We will all make mistakes. That's how we learn and grow. Keep blooming, y'all. Lori Plays. Thanks for being here and making Florida a prettier place. Good to see you, Lori. We're going to get you back downtown one of these days, no matter what. Buttercup, yay, I'm so proud of you both. Rocket, love is awesome. The Real Life School, catching up on double speed. This conversation makes my heart happy. It is not the good times that define relationships. It's repairing it when there has been a rupture. Thank you for modeling it. Buttercup, I'm so proud of you guys. You are adulting. Keep it up forever. Not a streamer, bro. Both of you being vulnerable in all your sharing, regardless if retracted, is admirable and inspirational. We're all in this world learning. Any idea of perfect is just someone's idea that is unachievable by all. Thank you for sharing all with unifying intent. That's beautiful. Thank you. Celtic Moon, great book. Love Me, Don't Leave Me. Michelle Skeen. Have you heard of it?
No, it's probably for me though.
Oh, okay. Asun says, I love that both try to work through things. Humans are messy, and it's okay if it takes time and work when both are willing to work on things. Dianetic, say Marisa.
Oh.
Okay, people devalue Jenna's mindset. Each time she expresses emotions on her YouTube community page. Ladies, we all go through one life lesson regarding relationships. Stop treating her like she's a baby.
I just want to say that Marisa and I are cool. I did a community post about anyways. But yeah, Marisa and I are cool, and she's really sweet, and we've had a really good conversation, and yeah. So hi, Marisa.
Marilyn Honig, this is so similar to stuff that came up in couples therapy with my hubby. Philosophy, you both really seem dedicated to finding an understanding, and that's a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, people like to destroy beautiful things. I'm glad you're not letting them. Rib Guy, thank you for gifting 5 channel memberships. Melissa McDonald, these relationship issues aren't that rare. Most people are dealing with past traumas, and they manifest in relationships in this way all the time. Cassie, welcome as a new channel member. Fingy, Alondra, oh, nice. Can we get an Aaron cooking cookies live soon? Actually, you're more likely to get Aaron making homemade pasta.
I think he should do a video about that.
I make homemade pasta almost every
Yeah,
day.
I
She
think
wants
it
me
would
to
be
do a
so
video
cute.
about it. I'm like, that's not the kind of channel that I have. And she's like, well, it should be.
Yourself. Yeah, it should be. That's what I think.
Pause for Andrea. It's so brave of you both to be this vulnerable with each other, let alone in front of all of you. Abraham, good to see you, Abraham. This conversation is great, and it helps the viewer get to know you both better. Sending big hugs. Happy Valentine's Day. Have been wearing the Valentine's pink.
True. Thank you, Abraham. Abraham has been a good friend and an angel.
Yeah. Max's mom, happy to see pink shirt again with laughs and smiles. Eat more pizza now. Nobody's perfect. We all have consequences from our choices. Everybody loves pizza. Sharona, thanks for showing how to work on a relationship. Lena on me. I'm so excited that those that thought they were burning stuff down is disappointed. And Marilyn Honig, love you both. Thank you for being the grown-ups in the room. I'm really glad we did this. And honestly, I mean, it opens the doors to having a lot more chats like this because, and it'd be nice to have these chats like when it's not like, oh, damage control, crisis mode.
Right.
Like, honestly, like,
Yeah.
and
It's pertinent to Scientology too.
Yeah,
because
it
it's like
is.
part of the leaving, and
yeah,
it just is. Not that
Absolutely.
it has to be in order to talk about it, but
Yeah.
it really is.
Yeah.
It's almost like what we don't want to talk about because we have to pretend like after we leave everything is fine so that Scientology doesn't use it against us. But then in that same way, Scientology is still controlling us.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, we're heading downtown. We're heading downtown as soon as we can get all this wrapped up. And as many of you guys who are in driving distance, come and join us. We'll be down there for a couple hours across from the Fort Harrison Hotel with Cheryl and Dusty and maybe some other a whole bunch of other special guests. We'll see you guys down there.
Bye.
99.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right